Hello readers, well here we are again, and this is my 5th YouTube, Queens this time, bringing to life characters from my autobiographic novels. In my last effort you met gorgeous Gary. He's the one who had a horror of effeminate men. They were not so easily tolerated in Detroit as in Derbyshire. Highly visible, outrageous homosexuals seemed to dominate the English scene in the 1960s. Chicago had an active gay resort called Saugatuck. It was on the east side of Lake Michigan, and Gary and I were often there. Somewhere in the dunes I fished out, as he would say, one of your freaks. It was a screaming black queen known as Bun Bun, who referred to himself as this lady. Bun Bun assumed that Gary, a tempting blonde bombshell, you understand, would be accommodating as I had been. Anyway, there he was, poor Gary of stony countenance, sitting on his towel on the beach, helplessly watching this attention-grabbing one-queen mini-circus. Bun Bun danced and pranced, wriggling her backside, thrusting out prominent begging buttocks, yelling out in a thick black accent, "Yeah, babe! You is some sweet meat! Ooh, ooh, ooh! Hunky, hunky! Tasty hunky! Mmm! Ooh, this lady, she hungry! Yeah! This lady is one hot slut. Bun Bun ready for action. She want filling. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh." This outrageous trollop continued to caper and orbited Gary's towel about 3 more times in her bizarre war dance come love dance pre-sex ritual. I'll never forget the retreating figure of a disappointed Bun Bun, moving just ahead of her eye-catching rump, mincing across the sand. She disappeared into deep shadows of shrubbery, ever onwards, ever hunting, ever hopeful to find Prince Charming. Well, that's when the volcano erupted. Oh my God, how dare you bring that vile excrescence near my person? You look at that butch number over there. You see that guy over there on the sand there? I had a look and I took note of a desirable sculpture of deeply tanned muscles languidly soaking up the sun, looking out over the water, posing on his towel. He was looking in my direction, get that? I was in with a chance. He's seen that grotesque spectacle. No chance now, kaput. Anyway, I reminded Gary that Detroit has a few weird and wacky queens of its own in the Woodward Bar. I said, what about that bitchy Queen Marie? Pure acid. I was referring actually to an incident which had recently taken place. There were 4 of us. There was Gary, Hubert, Bill Scruggs and myself enjoying a quiet drink on our own, minding our own business. Marie spotted us and screamed out for the whole bar to hear, "Oh, Miss Scruggs! Oh, there you are! Honey, I'm a-coming over! Here comes my buddy!" We nearly died of embarrassment, especially poor Bill. He just had a toupee fitted. "Why, Miss Scruggs, what is that? A rug on your head, I perceive? Honey, you ain't a-fooling nobody, and I love to pull hair." Then she noticed Hubert. To his horror, she gave him a big hug like he was a long-lost friend. "Ooh, so cuddly, nice big fat belly. Look everybody, look, there's Hubert. Oh, poor Hubert. Those evil queens should not be referring to you as the Lady of the Vapours. Why, that's just not true. You don't go to the sauna 7 days a week, do you? No, you take Mondays off. But be careful, baby. You've had 3 retreads on your tongue this year to date. Oh yeah. And those teeth, they'll need scraping again soon. That comb, it just builds up and up and up. Well, it's true. When I go to the sauna, you know, they hand me a towel. When you go, Hubert, they hand you knee pads. Oh dear. Well, anyway, Gary hated such tittle-tattle from the lowlife of my quirky collection of friends. He got no time for any of this nonsense. He viewed old-fashioned Hubert as one of the dregs of Detroit, a shabbily dressed, overweight beer belly who broke wind too often. Oh, for God's sake, don't suggest another meeting. I can't take the body odour. He doesn't like me and I don't like him. Have a good look at him. Hubert is the depression. He gets his clothes from the Goodwill. And he belongs to the 1930s. Why, he should have stayed there. And please don't keep talking about Marie. She may be funny to you, but anybody who is anyone avoids her like the plague. A vicious mixture of show-off, spite, chiffon and cheap makeup. Are you listening to me? I asked for Scruggs, well, he's just a waste of space. Gary was utterly frustrated by the social gay scene. He reasoned that it was simple reasoning. If a man wants to attract another man, why in hell's name do they behave like a woman? Why turn themselves into freaks? For God's sake, that's just what they are, freaks. I'd like to push their faces, stupid faces, I really would. Are you listening to me? I'm at my wit's end, just trying to find one single real macho man. Well, Hubert was nothing to look at, but he was a friend and I enjoyed his company. Like many gay men estranged from a disapproving family, he was often depressed. Eventually he fell into the clutches of religious bigotry. Untold numbers of homosexuals have had their lives warped, effectively destroyed by active evangelism and rabid homophobia. After years of unceasing brainwashing from Jehovah's Witnesses, Hubert became celibate. He cut himself off from gay friends, from gay support. He died, a lonely, sad, broken man. Well, anyway, back in England I was on holiday and I introduced Mr. Toad, you remember Mr. Toad from before, I introduced him to an attractive but affected, effeminate youth called Julian. Well, all went well until bedtime when Toad said, "Should you require an aspirin or any assistance in the night, Julian, don't hesitate to come into my boudoir." Always waggled his fingers when excited. Julian, however, thrust his snooty nose in the air. "Most unlikely," said Julian, who sounded just like a girl. "You, Mr. Toad, are grotesque. It would be scraping the bottom of the barrel." During that night I was awakened by whoops and screams, something like, "Ooh! Ooh! Ooh!" A camp queen with a high voice was in rapture, impaled on a stiff stake of impressive proportions. Toad had a tremendous reputation for this. He was proud of his inflated weapon, well practiced in the art of inflicting supreme ecstasy upon a willing victim. The climax came. Toad's deep guttural groan signalled a milky gush concluding high delight. Alas, alas, a reaction set in. The rapturous rider denounced his delirious gallop to that final moment of pure joy. He lectured the ugly, loathsome lecher. "Mr. Toad, we have sinned. We must pray for forgiveness." Hours later, breakfast was difficult. Julian, in foul mood, hardly spoke to his host, but the gloating Toad was triumphant, nudging his guest with a wicked elbow. "Aye, aye, aye, last night, eh? How was that for the bottom of the barrel? You enjoyed that ride on my stallion last night, didn't you?" As Anne Boleyn said to Henry VIII, "Last night is a sample of what you won't get." "Well, I'm not going to give you the pleasure of refusing me, Julian." "It would not be a pleasure, Mr. Toad. It would be a necessity. For you see, I shall journey afar to join a monastery, never, ever to have sex again." And he packed his bags and stormed out of the house, and we never saw him again. Some days later, at the Derby Turkish Bath, I found myself sitting next to Clarence Soames, a desiccated toff. His naked body seemed to be as white as his very white face, contrasting sharply with short, neat, raven black hair, a delicate gentleman. He seemed supremely indifferent to everybody, showing no interest at all. Now, Clarence was a senior member of the Nottingham camp, a social climbing snob. I attempted conversation. "I like your car." After quite a long pause, the deathly white face slowly turned to assess the young speaker. With legal precision, one sharp word was delivered in cut glass quality. "Indeed." "Oh, yeah, it's really neat. Ooh, lovely posh leather. Nice wooden finish inside, all good taste. I were admiring it when I tied my bicycle up to the lamppost outside." "Bicycle? How quaint." Well, that was a concise reply, pregnant with the derision. I continued with enthusiasm, trying to ignore the put-down. "Ah, yeah, switches and buttons everywhere, and automatic transmission. Very few English cars has got automatic transmission." "We have everything except money." Condescending words, carefully enunciated with subtle sarcasm, were offensive to me. And yet, for 51 years, I've remembered that and admired those words as much as I had genuinely admired the posh car. Clarence, of course, was heading off a request for money. He needn't have worried. I have never asked for money, before or since. However, I was enormously impressed with the way this gentleman had pronounced that one word, money. It sounded like money, in stark contrast to my working class money. The character attracting most comment in my books is Belper. In Belper, he was known as the Belper Crow. I call him Jasper, actually. He dwelled in a primitive, isolated cottage, practicing legendary talents of body massage. Very keen to offer the extras, yes. He was gnarled and craggy. At first sight I beheld a large hawk nose far forward of deep-set, grizzled, leering eyes. This hideous hunchback looked positively Jurassic. I thought it wise not to introduce him to Gary, so he never met him. Nobody knew Jasper's age, but he used an earth closet lavatory. The family were night soil men. Back in the 1880s, that's how old he was, young Jasper assisted his father and brothers, who were called honey dumpers. He was the limey lad. This is a boy with a naked flame torch who walked ahead of the cart, spreading lime over any spillages of excrement to get shut at sting, you see. After years of emptying buckets of jollop, as they called them, Jasper was totally immune to all known germs. And sadly, he was the butt of lavatory jokes. I heard about the time when he was ordered to retrieve his father's false teeth from the bottom of a tank of human excrement. Decades later, Jasper spent many hours in the notorious Belper lavatory. He used his little hammer and chisel, getting bigger, chisel to carve out a hole at crotch level. It was as big as a dinner plate. And I heard about this. A camp rotundity called Dolly, who you've met before in previous YouTubes, was occupying the next WC cubicle. He amused us with the following anecdote. This is what he said. Dolly said, "I recognised the spread. It was a sort of picnic. Cracker biscuits, butter cheese, flask of tea, sustenance, you understand. Well, it's important because he's there all day long. That's how we got that hump, you know. Yes, a lifetime of bending down, giving pleasure to those naughty, rough workmen." I said, "Hello," and hello through the hole, and he said, "Hello. We're old friends, of course, you know." I said, "Have you been busy?" And he said, "I've been very busy. Yeah, I've had my teeth out all day. One were as big as a cucumber." He often ended a sentence with "meh." It's a sort of expletive, possibly indicating "so there," or perhaps expressing irritation, I'm not quite sure. Stories about Jasper and his false teeth were rooted in gay folklore. I'll never forget my first encounter. A damp, foggy night, Dolly guided me past a decrepit Victorian latrine to a dark cubicle, apparently empty. I heard a sound. It was a sort of click. "Did you hear that?" whispered Dolly. "Lucky boy. The click of a crone. It's the prelude to pleasure," sighed this little fat man in soft, round vowels. "Advance," he pushed me forward. "Yield. Offer yourself to this master of the extended orgasm. Give yourself and know true bliss." Well, on dark winter evenings, Jasper would creep into a public toilet to service and drain the desperate. But he'd forget where he'd put down his teeth, you see, and then there'd be, "Where's my choppers? Where have I put them? Have you seen them? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, shift out of way then. Where are they? I put them somewhere. Where are they?" Well, that's your lot, folks. I'll see you again sometime. Bye for now.